Hi everyone, welcome back to another new video of me trying to figure out how these granulating colors by Kuretake will react today. I am working with the Aurora Blue this time, and wow, that color is so stormy and moody. I love it. I think this one is one of my favorites. Although there are quite a few almost rusty undertones when that orange comes out, but the blue in this color is gorgeous. So I suggest you grab yourself something to drink and you sit back because it's gonna take me a little while to get to where I want to be. So for the last two that I did, I started in the middle. This time I wanted a little bit of white space incorporated, and I was worried that by moving the colors around, I wouldn't be able to achieve that. So I started just adding water to the top half first and then connect the bottom to it with a few of those channels. I was trying to do maybe a third one, but then I decided against it and just make that edge move up a little bit closer to the top part. So then I move the colors around and I keep adding more pigment to it because as the colors move, and there's always quite a bit of water on my paper, it starts to dilute, and because of the amount of water that is on it, it takes a little while to evaporate, and so that I get that concentrated color back again. So I just keep adding more color to it, and I am moving the colors around. By doing so, I notice that they separate. So as the colors get moved around, they tend to settle, and the blue tends to separate itself from the orange that is in there. And you can see around the edges of the paper where the blue is starting to dry. And where the paints are still wet, I get that orange. As I am moving the colors around and as they're drying, I can tell that where the orange settles into the already dried blue, it gives me a really beautiful hue. So that's what I want to accomplish. I want to be able to create areas or little pockets where some of that color is just blue, and some of those areas have that beautiful blue orange tint. I don't want to add any more water than is absolutely necessary at this point, because the goal is to have it dry at some point. So obviously I do still need a little bit of water to get more pigment onto the page, but I'm keeping it to a minimum. But look at how beautiful that looks. Isn't it just gorgeous? I'm very excited about this color. At this point, I have the video footage at double speed because it just took so long to get to a point where I felt like that was good enough. And in between drying period, it takes me about maybe 15-20 minutes before I come back and move the colors around again. So now you can see it is starting to move much more slowly, and that's exactly what I want. Look at how those are drying. At this point, it is very hard to get them to move at all. And that's a good thing, but it's also, it takes forever. But now we're finally at a stage where I can let it dry completely and add the final touches in form of adding some gold. And this is the Schmincke Aqua Bronze that I'm adding now. Just added water to it, and now I'm splattering it over my page. I really love how I can see all these different layers, and I was able to achieve that by not adding another layer really to it. I just waited for the water to evaporate and just kept moving those colors around. So I have some finer splatters of gold, and now I'm adding some bigger ones to it. What I'm gonna turn them into at this point, I don't know. I just like to have a little bit of interest. I'm also adding some more concentrated color on top with a little bit more splatters. And I am not deliberate with where I put them. I just want something on there. And then it's time to start with the doodling process. At first, it reminded me of tornadoes in a stormy sky, but then I decided to go with a tree kind of looking element, and I'm really happy I stuck with that. Only one side of the tree was kind of visible, so I kind of had to make up the other side just to kind of put a divider there. Beyond the tree, I didn't really have an idea, so I was struggling with what to do with the dots now that are inside that tree, so I just circled them. I just made them even bigger by adding lines to it. It's been really fun exploring these colors and seeing what they can do with the application that I use. All right, so now that those are circled in, we're gonna figure out what to do next. I have to give this tree some kind of trunk, right? So this is what I chose to do. Then we're gonna divide the page a little bit by using a line. I did some of these daisy flowers in my last one, and I really liked how they turned out, and so I wanted them in this painting again. I have definite favorites in this set. Others I think could work in certain times, but I'm just gravitating more towards the blues and the purples in general, so those were really easy for me to then turn into a painting. And you can take a wild guess what I'm gonna do next. Did you guess? Yep, cobblestones, of course. We gotta have a little pathway to go up to the second level, right? And that's what that's for. You may have asked yourself, now what is she gonna do with that tree? Is she gonna leave it like that, or what's next? Well, me taking my time and effort on doodling on other parts of this page was because I was trying to figure out what to do next. So this is what I came up with. I decided to make part of the tree look like it has branches because it's a tree after all, so it does need something in there that resembles branches. Okay, so good. Now we are outlining that part, but I am not continuing. And why is that? Because I don't know what to do. That's why. So I am just moving on to something else because there's plenty to do. In preparation of the new Beetlejuice movie coming out, we watched the first one, and that might have something to do with how these lines popped up into this painting. I don't know, maybe I had the sandworms in my mind. I don't know, but it's a reoccurring theme in this painting, and I just now kind of realized that there is a lot of this Tim Burton Beetlejuice kind of background going on in this painting. In fact, I finally was able to purchase a new printer, and it's the Canon Pixma Pro 200, and I'm really excited about it. But because she arrived this week, I decided to name her Lydia. I like to give my appliances names, so and plants. I also have a monstera that is called Wednesday. You could guess why. So yeah, there's a little bit of a theme going on sometimes, and it just seemed fitting that, you know, she needed to be called Lydia. But let's move on. I am bringing out my Garandash Luminance colored pencils to start shading in, and I do that because I am thinking I want to start putting my dots down, but I know that I need to do the shading first. Is it a brown or blue? It says dark indigo. I love it. Huh. I'm bringing out some of the yellows and oranges because I feel like they would add a little bit more brightness to the page, even though I have quite a bit of that white showing, but I kind of like how that yellow got incorporated. And then I also brought out the lightest shade of yellow, because there was kind of a glow going on behind that worm. So that's what I wanted to accentuate a little bit more. I actually started shading in the other side of the trunk, and then I realized that one of the gold dot kind of looks like the moon, and so I realized that the shade would be on the wrong side. So there is a method to the madness sometimes when I do these things. I do put a little bit of thought behind it, and so I had to erase that and shade the other side. I feel like I need to highlight those rings a little bit, but I think I might bring in the acrylic white for that. Now onto the cobblestones. I'm pretending that this is a moon of sorts, and there's light coming from that side. So up here, down here, the shadows can be on the top, but up here I have to place them on the bottom and make the top then brighter later on. That white space looked a little bit too big for me, so I divided it with a line and then filled it in with more lines. And I think that was kind of needed because it felt like it was balancing the piece out a little bit more. Notice how I'm still avoiding the rest of the tree up there? I promise I'll get back to it, but before I do that, I want to finish up what I know I wanted to do. So we're just gonna continue setting up the scene and adding those last finishing touches to it. I'm bringing out the acrylic gold to add some dots to put around the moon, but when I was finished, it kind of looked more like the sun instead, so it's okay. Either way, the light source is coming from that side, and I think I've accomplished that with my highlights and lowlights. So what I just realized editing this footage is that I am missing the part where I am finishing the tree. Sorry guys, but you can see it in the final close-up footage that I'm showing at the end of the video. Basically what I did was shading it in, as you can see it here, but then also adding lines, very fine lines over the shading, and that's all that I did. I have no idea what happened. I thought the camera was going as I was doing that, but apparently I missed it. Now the dotting tool that I'm bringing out here is actually from my baking days. That's why it says Borderlands Bakery on it. It is basically a dauber tool. It has a squishy bit on the top and you can use that to create dots. It's kind of fun to do, but because I had shaded with my pencils and I had diluted the white acrylic paint, it took me a little while to get the dots going, but when I did, I was really pleased with how it looked. I kind of wanted them to be a little bit less dominant, but like I said, because of the pencil marks underneath, it had a hard time showing up, so I had to use a little bit more of that white, but in the end it worked out. And I did extend the lines over the dots as well to kind of make them look more in the background. All right, the piece is finished here, and I am slowing down the footage of the top of the tree for you, just so you can see a little bit more in detail what I actually did. That is it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider giving me a like. You can save it, you can share it with your friends if you wish. And please come back next week when I will be testing out the Aurora Orange. So I will leave you here for today. Have a wonderful weekend and see you next time.